Sorry. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's I'm back. Hey, it's me. Wow. We got some news. To no surprise to anyone, but we got news for Raid. I do apologize that this video is a nothing burger. I worked all day. I did answer some DMs on Discord for account takeovers. We will be doing one tomorrow for Mr. Milk. Shout out Mr. Milk. We're going to be doing a unkillable clan boss team. And I guess you'll just have to watch the stream tomorrow night to see how it goes. But I think we're going to be doing just fine. Cutting to the chase of it. Let's go right into the news. Plarium did release a bit of, I guess we're doing more of those fancy summon events. They call them Progressive Chance Event. All right, it's got all the buzzwords. And we will have a times 15 chance to summon the following champions starting tomorrow, and it will change for the next 3 days, okay? So tomorrow, November 21st, you will have a times 15 chance to choose to summon Krisk the Ageless. All right, he's the only option for tomorrow from Voids. You will also have a times 15 chance to summon Michinaki and Ragash from Ancients, Primals, and Sacreds. Okay, I'm going to tell you, out of all the non-void summoning events coming in the next 3 days, this is probably the best one. We can go here. So let's just look. So the first one, we'll look at the voids, right? Krisk. Krisk is amazing. I have 2 of them. I use both of them, mainly for Hydra. That's actually where I use both these guys at, and nowhere else, right? They've just been allocated to being Hydra champs because that's honestly where they excel. I love Krisk. A1, when booked, 50% to place decreased speed. It's an AoE attack. His A2 makes him the perfect mischief tank target. Okay, 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies and also puts ally protection on all allies, and then puts continuous heal, 2 of them on this guy for a turn. And then his A3, Invincible Shell, 3-turn cooldown when booked, places provoke on all enemies for a turn, and then gives himself increased defense, but then gives all of his allies big increased speed for 2 turns. His passive, when booked, is a 100% chance of placing decreased attack and decreased defense on anybody that hits him. Okay? So what's good about this ability is if Hydra hits him and has a poison cloud up, guess what? It counts. And it will place on the Hydra because Krisk did not hit the Hydra to do a weak hit, per se, right? And this also puts a shield on him at the start of the turn. Shield on him and all allies for 50% of his max HP, right, for 2 turns, which is pretty cool. The only downside to Krisk is he's very slow, 94. And he is a defense-based champion. And let me tell you, his A2, it hits. It's pretty hard. Okay, next one. Right, we're going to talk about the one I don't have, and it makes me really sad. Michinaki, Asian Ghost Rider, if you will. He is very much an Oni from Japanese mythology. I love it. They just make him cooler and cooler. I didn't even realize that the head drips poison flames. Michinaki is one of the best Hydra champions in the game, bar none. Do not ever confuse it with anything else. And he's really good for regular clan boss too. Okay, so his A1 attacks one enemy, 60% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns. Great ability. His A2, he places decreased defense and decreased attack as such. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing decreased defense for 2 turns. Also 100% chance of placing decreased attack for 2 turns on enemies under Hex. 4-turn cooldown for this. This is where Hex comes into the kit. Now Hex was kind of a meme debuff not too long ago. But with a lot of buffs and changes and new champions coming out, Hex is actually, especially for Hydra, I mean really only Hydra, is needed. It's severely needed. It's actually the only place it is needed. So take that as you will. Attacks all enemies 2 times. 3-turn cooldown when booked. The first hit removes all buffs from each target, and the second places Hex for 2 turns. Amazing ability. And then his passive, Corsair of Curses. Whenever an ally attacks an enemy under a Hex debuff, this champion has a 50% chance to team up and join the ally's attack. This effect does not work against the Hydra's exposed heads. Guess what? That's a lie. It does. They tried to fix the coding. They even put that in there trying to be like, yeah, it's going to work. Couldn't will it into existence. He does have an aura. Increase ally defense in all battles by 30%. It's pretty standard for a defense champion. This guy really racks up the miles and puts a lot of damage on. He brings a lot of debuffs to Hydra that you need. Decrease defense, decrease attack, and then hex, right? And HP burn. And he comes in, slides in there, and he does a little bit extra damage. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Just making sure we were still recording because I've had that happen before. This guy, I love him. Ragash, I call him Shere Khan, right? Because I grew up watching The Jungle Book. It was my favorite cartoon when I was a kid. Ragash is a defensive-based nuker who specializes honestly in arena, but he can do work anywhere else in the game for you. His A1 attacks an enemy 2 times, gives himself increased defense for 2 turns before he attacks. It's pretty good, right? I'm pretty sure this is before he attacks. His A2, 3-turn cooldown when booked, 100% chance when booked, decreased defense he'll place, and a stun. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing decreased defense for 2 turns, also before attacking. Also has 100% chance of placing stun for 1 turn after attack. Pretty good. His A3 brings a lot of great buffs, honestly. It's a 4-turn cooldown when booked, big strengthen, increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, and then gives perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns. And then his passive, because, you know, he's a ninja kitty, right? Art of Stealth. At the start of each turn, he places perfect veil buff for 1 turn on the ally with the highest attack, and then inflicts 20% more damage against targets whose defense is lower than this champion's defense. And then he has a passive, again, defense in all battles by 30%. I'm not kidding you. When I'm in live arena, I have a +2 Ragash, so go figure. But he smacks so hard, especially because of this passive. You get 20% more damage for people that don't have as much defense as you. Guess what, homies? That's like everybody, unless you're going against like a Harima or somebody else, right? Great base stats. Honestly, can't ask for much more. Ragash is so versatile because you can run him in the debuff spot, okay? Because he's going to place decreased defense and stun, as long as they don't have stone skin or immunity, which is really the meta right now. But you can use other people to strip as well, but he can do that for you. And then he also brings increased speed and strength, and these are great great buffs. Okay, so I love Ragash, and I mean also that passive also protects. Like if you go to run him in that like 3rd pick spot for like an off support, he protects your nuker right in arena. So that's amazing. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, that's for tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 21st. Now I go and look at my notes here. Boop boop boop. Sorry, still looking at notes. There we go. So for the Wednesday, November 22nd, again, it's going to be the progressive chance event. A lot of buzzwords there. We are starting off with the Void one. Now, this is the one I would really consider on. I don't know. I need 100 more for Mercy, but Cardiel. Now, Krisk is amazing. Krisk, for a long time, was considered the best Void legendary in the game, bar none. He went everywhere. And then the meta changed, and then new champions came out and everything. Krisk got kind of pushed to the wayside, but he's still considered an amazing pull when you get him, okay? Especially because of Hydra. Cardiel, though, is the true end-game Void champion in these summon events that are going to be coming. Cardiel brings so much to the table. For one, his speed aura, which is regular, it's 90% in all battles, but it's better than nothing. But look at this. Cow the Wicked. Okay, it heals, attacks an enemy, 7.5% chance of their max HP, and then it goes up very small percentages. Also places True Feel for 1 turn on the target if the target is a champion from the Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, or Knights Revenant factions. This is one of the few champions in the game that you're actually okay with faction biases, is what I like to call them, okay? Or enmities, if you will. His A2 is a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Angel Song removes all debuffs from all allies and then places block debuffs and Revive on Death on allies for 2 turns. The Revive on Death buff cannot be removed. Great. Okay, and then his A3, Heavenly Host, 4-turn cooldown when booked. It is one of 3 all-ally attack in the game. Places increased crit rate and crit damage on all allies for 2 turns, and then teams up with all allies to attack a target enemy, decreases the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if an enemy is killed from this attack. And then his passive, Fiend Warden. Allies receive 20% less damage from champions under Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes, or Knights, Revenant factions, right? Faction biases or enmities. And whenever an ally attacks, has a 15% chance to team up with them and join their attack. Pretty good. A lot like Michinaki. And then this champion will attack with their default skill, always join Sissy of Flametongue's attacks if they're on the same team. So he's part of like, the couples thing or the lovers thing. Can only join an ally's attack once per turn. Cardale will not team up on an ally attack when they counter attack or when teaming up to attack with another champion. So there you go. Base stats are amazing. Now, Cardale is great in a lot of places. Mainly, he is great in Fire Knight Hard 10. He's a key component to that team. He's also really amazing in Hydra, and he's really amazing in Arena, okay? I've seen him put to a lot of work, and you can even use him on the Griffin 2 and Doom Tower. I do love Cardale. I don't have Cardale, and I wish I did have him, right? And I wish I also had all the money in the world, and then I would just buy him. But there we are. So the next two, one is good, but not great. And the other one I don't really give a damn for. But one also, again, for a long time was hailed as one of the best champions in the game. And it was under Priest Brogni. We'll go over his abilities here quick. His A1 has looks like 60% chance of placing HP burn. And then his A2, Cavern's Grasp, 3-turn cooldown when booked, 100% chance when booked. He'll attacks all enemies and removes one random buff from all enemies. Has a 100% chance of removing one random buff from all allies, debuff from all allies, and increases the value of the shield buffs on allies by 30% of the damage inflicted. So you guys know he was part of the Cadaver comp. He's still part of the Infinity Team comp for Hydra Clan Boss, or for regular Clan Boss, apologies. And then his A3 here, Resilient Glow, 3-turn cooldown when booked, places block debuffs and big increased attack on all allies for 2 turns. Also places shield on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of this champion's max HP. The shield buff cannot be removed. And then he has this ability, Redoubt. Whenever an ally under shield buff, which is any shield buff, is attacked, reflects 25% of the damage inflicted on the shield back to the attacker. Also heals the ally by 20% of the damage inflicted on the shield. If there are multiple champions in the team with this skill, only one will activate. And then he has an aura for Doom Tower, which increases resistance by 60. He's got decent base stats. 100 for speed's not crazy, but he is a support. Brogni's amazing and great. I've been lucky enough to pull a lot of them, and I did do the fusion back in the day. But really, I just don't see him seeing a lot of use anymore. You can still use him in Hydra, and you can use him in Clan Boss, and that's about it. I've seen some people try to use him in Arena, and it just doesn't work out. It probably works out at low Arena, where you have not such like a great discrepancy between like gear, where champions actually most of the time make a big difference. And then the next one, which I just don't care for this champion. We did have a guaranteed event on her, and that is going to be Kaya the Rai. She looks really cool. I'll give her that. I don't really understand. Is that supposed to be another mask on a stick? Whatever. Anyways, she's a support. Her A1, Firecracker, has a heal on it. Attacks an enemy, heals a champion by 10% of their max HP. If Timid are on the team, heals all of them by the same amount, right? So you can have multiple Timids, right? A2, Back with a Bang. 4-turn cooldown when booked. Revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter, and then places 30% increased crit rate and crit damage on them for 2 turns. If Timid the Fool is on the same team and dead, revives them with full HP and full turn meter. And if Timid the Fool is on the same team and alive, resets the cooldown and instantly activates their Kegs of Dread skill. Her A3, Royal Flush, 3-turn cooldown when booked. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. Also removes 2 random debuffs from each ally. If Timid the Fool is on the team, removes all debuffs from all allies. Then places block debuffs on allies for 1 turn. Then her passive, Dynamic Duo. All turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against this champion. If Timid the Fool is on the same team, this champion is immune to turn meter reduction effects. If an enemy tries to decrease this champion's turn meter when Timid the Fool is on the same team, fills this champion's turn meter by the same percentage instead. And then she has aura and all battles speed increased by 19%. She has really good base speed at 112, really good HP. She's got resistance but no base accuracy. I guess you really don't need it, but there you go. Okay, my advice if you are so inclined, go for cardio right here. Wednesday, it's a pass unless you're going for cardio. I really wish I had one, but you know, them's the breaks, baby. All right, and Wednesday is going to be the last day for these events, and they're kind of, it really peters out like it. Yeah, let me just get to it here. Sorry. Sorry, I have to edit that out. All right, and then for Thursday, November 23rd, these are going to be the champions for the event. The new guy, Bellatar, who looks amazingly cool. He's got this like Aztec shaman mountain man vibe here. I'm really loving it. Really pulling it together. His whole thing is healing the team and placing buffs, which that's just a support, I guess, but let's just get into it. Fume Axe attacks an enemy, has a 50% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill on the ally with the highest turn meter except this champion by a turn. Slayer's Roar, 3-turn cooldown when booked, attacks all enemies, places increased attack and increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, also heals all allies by 20% of the champion's max HP. His damage is also based on HP. Now, here's the thing. When I'm in live arena, I'm just going to say this about this ability. When I'm in live arena, I like to differentiate my picks. So usually my first pick is like a Yumiko, and then I'll pick Siphi, and then I'll pick Duchess, and then I'll pick Harima and Sun Wukong. But the reason I do this is so I can essentially have 2 damage dealers and then have 2 people that buff each of those damage dealers. Because most of the time people ban Yumiko, so I just use Siphi. She'll do increased defense, and then Duchess does increased attack. So I'll pick an attack nuker, and I will also pick a defensive nuker. This works out great. This guy, if you use him for this ability, takes both of those spots because he's giving both of these buffs, which is really nice. All right, his A3, Mercy of the Oasis, 4-turn cooldown when booked, revives all dead allies, 50% HP and turn meter, then places a shield on them for 2 turns equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. And then his passive, Critical Juncture, when booked, is 70% chance of decreasing all of an ally's skill cooldowns by 1 turn whenever they are revived. He's got pretty decent stats. Speed's a little slow, but I think this guy is actually, I wonder if he's going to be a sleeper and be really good at some point, because I just have a weird feeling about it. But I like him. I think he looks really cool. And then the next one's going to be this guy right here, Krokmar. I don't care for this guy. People love him. I just don't. I watched videos on him and I just don't see the need for him. He's really cool looking. He is definitely based on that League of Legends champion. I can't remember. He's a bruiser. But anyways, his A1, Meat Splitter, attacks an enemy and then attacks all enemies 1 time if the first attack is critical. Okay, so you can get an AoE out of it. Gnashing Bog, 3-turn cooldown when booked, attacks all enemies, places a shield on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. Also heals this champion by 10% of their max HP for each critical hit. By the way, he is an HP-based damage dealer. So a bruiser. Apex Predator, 4-turn cooldown when booked. He will place increased crit rate and crit damage on all allies for 3 turns, then grants an extra turn. So this is effectively a 3-turn cooldown when booked because he's going to take an extra turn, and for him, the buffs are up for 2 turns, which is, is what it is. But there you are. And then his passive, Voracious Hunger. Whenever this champion decreases the target's attack or defense by 5%, as well as accuracy or resistance by 5%, depending on which stat is the highest, stacks up to 30%. So I guess really, the longer he stays in like a boss fight, especially Hydra, which I'm going to make a video about what they need to do about Hydra, because the time spent in a Hydra is astronomical. I spend more time in Hydra than I do in any other part of the game combined for the entire week. But the more time this guy spends in Hydra, the more damage your team is going to inflict and the more they are going to survive. So, he's got that going for him, which is nice, right? And then the last guy, which I do have this guy, but I don't use him at all. He's just sitting in the vault. He's going to be Knocked the Paralyzer. Now, honestly, I think if Hydra Clan Boss was susceptible to poisons, this guy might see some play. But until then, probably not. Let's go over his ability, shall we? Haze of Pain. He has a, looks like 80% chance of placing decreased accuracy for 2 turns. He'll attack somebody, and he is HP based as well. He is A2, Dreamer's Demise, 3-turn cooldown when booked, 100% chance when booked. He attacks all enemies, placing sleep for 1 turn and 2 5% poison debuffs for 2 turns. This is a passive ability on this thing. Places 2 additional poisons for 2 turns whenever a sleep debuff placed by the skill is removed or disappears after an enemy takes damage. Heady Fumes, 3-turn cooldown when booked, puts ally protection on allies except the champion for 2 turns, and then puts continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. And then his passive. Heals this champ, it's called Somnolence. Heals this champion by 3% of their max HP, and all allies except this champion by 1% of this champion's max HP every time a poison debuff ticks on an enemy. Whenever an ally is attacked while under an ally protection buff, has a 40% chance of placing sleep on the attacker for 1 turn. And then he does have an aura, which increases HP in dungeons by 35%. The only thing I don't like about this guy is his speed is low. If he had higher speed, he might see even some more play. But the community, I mean, looks like they like him. He's good for faction wars. That's definitely no doubt there. You can definitely use him to get through the Valkyrie wave when you're going against the boss. And he's probably really good for Doom Tower progression, just getting through the waves. But otherwise, he's just nothing. I mean, what would you use him for? You could use him for like a cheeky regular arena team, you know, give him like 700 accuracy and make him 300 speed and just kind of see what happens, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. And if you did notice, right, the first day was all defensive champions, the second day was attack champions, and then the third day is HP champions. So that is kind of nice. But my advice is, if you think you are going to go for these, I do kindly want to remind you that it is going to be Black Friday on Friday, and they're going to have cyber deals all week, so kind of keep an eye out for that. Maybe not blow your load on all this mediocre stuff, you know what I'm saying? Kind of hold back. I'm really starting to cement myself into, I'm just going to, you know, maybe I'm just going to save forever. But yeah. That's about it for me. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments down below. And also tell me if you want to see something in a video, and I will do my damnedest to make it come true. And anybody that was curious, when I did my stream yesterday, our boy, can't remember his name now, I do apologize. We couldn't get him to get past Eternal Dragon, but he did send me a screenshot. And let me just kind of pull that up here. And I'll show you, he did manage to get through Eternal Dragon, and he did use the champions that I recommended. So, go here. Okay. New. Right here, bingo. He said, I'll work on Rector, thanks. And then finally, he got Rector. She's still 50. For level, but she's like 6-starred and everything, and that was the trick to getting him through Eternal Dragon. So there you have it. I'm very happy for him. I was happy that worked out. I was really bummed that we couldn't do it on stream for him, but it is what it is. But yeah. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. And again, as always, well, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye.